Junior Mining Weekly, a StockPulse.com production, where we track the action of the individual equities markets within the commodity sector. Today's show is sponsored by a brand new sponsor, Amex Exploration. Amex trades as AMX on the Toronto Venture Exchange and has made multiple high-grade gold discoveries in the Abitibi-Greenstone Gold Belt in Quebec. The property is surrounded by multiple producing gold mines and located on a year-round road next to the town of Normetal. Amex is in the middle of a fully funded 100,000-meter drill program aimed at building ounces on at least 3 gold zones while exploring for more zones along more than 15 kilometers of regional faults. Drilling is year-round and started in January 2020. There are 3 drills turning on the property, making for ample news flow throughout the year. Amex is managed by seasoned mine finders and financiers, all of whom have invested their own money in the company. Now here to run through the equity action of the week for what we have identified as some of the more important news, Allan Barry Laboucan. All right, Al, this year can't end fast enough for most of these juniors. Seasonal selling's about done here. How's the vibe looking for 2020 from your view?
It's ready to rumble time, Rob. The tax loss selling is pretty much done for almost everything I'm looking at. I'm seeing one of the big themes that I've seen this year, I mentioned it to someone earlier today, is that a lot of these tax loss selling victims have come out way ahead of schedule, started to recover like in the 3rd week of November, and usually that doesn't happen until around now. So this is a very bullish sign for the new year. And we'll talk a little bit more about Santa Claus rallying and stuff like that later on.
Okay, well, let's dive in here. First one on the list, Unigold. Unigold trades as UGD on the Adventure. Had some drill intersects, the Candelones extension deposit in the Dominican Republic. Run through this one.
Yeah, the Dominican Republic has been on my radar screen lately more. I think they've gotten a lot more active with their permitting and everything, and so you're starting to see a few companies. In fact, on today's show we got 2 companies that are involved with exploration in Dominican Republic, UGD, Unigold, who just put out some impressive results, drilling 23 meters of 6 grams per ton. I think last time we talked about them was their news that they had 17 meters of 7.3 grams per ton at their Candelones project. So that's some very nice numbers over thick intersections, some really valuable rock there. And one thing that makes Dominican Republic important for people to watch is one of Barrick's pride and joys, gems, if you will, in their portfolio is their Pueblo Viejo project in the Dominican. I think it's over 20 million ounces or something like that, just a monster. And so now we've got a few companies that are starting to get their permits and get busy with the drilling. Unigold had the good news out. And then just give you the 52-week range on this one. The low is 8.5 cents. The high is 27 cents. They closed today at 23 cents. This is not a super active trader, but I think investors are going to be hearing a lot more about UGD in the future. And I like what I'm seeing from the early days of drilling and expect more from them like that.
Apex Resources intersects gold mineralization at Ore Hill in British Columbia. I know you like this one. The stock got beat up a little bit. Run through it.
Yeah, the market can be unforgiving sometimes of technical successes, Rob. Even if those technical successes include some high-grade gold in the results, like 1/3 of a meter of 289 grams per ton gold. These high-grade systems, they take a little bit of work to get a handle on. What originally caught my attention with Apex was they had started drilling on their project, and then they announced that they had hit some visible gold. And because they only had about 15 million shares out, the stock got really active and traded all the way up to 43 cents. Before that, it was a sleepy little dog trading at about 4 cents. And so it did a 10x run. Now they delivered some good results. I guess the market was expecting more. But this is a tight deal, only 15 million shares out. To me, it's game on for these guys, not game off. It's a British Columbia southeastern project, the Ore Hill property, 15.4 million shares out right now. and trading at a dime gives them a $1.5 million valuation. That's the close today. So the range again is 4 cents to 43 cents, last at a dime. It's a bit of a tax loss selling victim in a few days, and also I think an overcooking it on the downside after what I thought was a very encouraging batch of first pass at the project. I don't think you've heard the last from these guys, and it's super cheap. Might be a good buy for some of our audience out there.
Okay, next one up here, back to the Dominican Republic. Precipitate Gold, PRG on the venture. Contracts a former Pueblo Viejo chief geologist and completes some ground preparation in advance of a drilling program down there. I know you like the Dominican Republic. Run through this one.
Yeah, they've got their permits to drill on a project right beside Pueblo Viejo. You could actually, they had one of their geologists taking pictures on Twitter, and you could see in the background the Pueblo Viejo project. And as I said, it's a monster for Barrick. Now these guys are in the same kind of rock. They're looking for another Pueblo Viejo, and they've got the money for the drilling. They got their permits, so now it's game on. Let's get rolling with the truth machine. Stock's trading range is 7.5 cents on the low, 18 cents on the high. Last at 18 cents. There again, Rob, it's already out of the tax loss selling victimhood. It started to move out of that back in the third, fourth week in November. This isn't the only chart that I've seen like this. And I think, again, I got to reiterate, I think that's an important thing to pay attention to, because one of the things is with tax loss selling, it almost always pays off. If you're good at stock picking, it always pays off. And for it to be giving this signal so early, I can't remember the last time I saw that happen. So it's a real noteworthy event to see a lot of these juniors coming out of that victimhood of tax loss selling way ahead of schedule, a few weeks ahead of schedule. These guys are what you call a shadows of a head frame project. The head frame of you can see the head frame of the Pueblo Viejo project from their property. Theirs is called Pueblo Grande. Maybe it'll be bigger. Who knows? But definitely one that I think people want to be paying attention to, because it's still relatively cheap and it's in elephant country, looking for an elephant in the gold space.
Well, speaking of big here, next one up, Orla Mining, OLA, on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Raised a bunch of money here, $125 million, not too far from where you're at down there, Al.
Yeah, it's in the state of Zacatecas. It's called the Camino Rojo project. It's a very well-known project. This is going to make them one of the lowest cost producers of gold, top 10 lowest cost producers of gold in the world. OLA is the symbol. This $125 million gives them the money to build the mine. And I wanted to make sure and let you know, here's some things that people don't always look at, the details of these things. But if you look at some of the investors, Chuck Jennis, famous for Gold Corp, and Pierre Lassonde, famous for the big Franco-Nevada, the real royalty company, put a bunch of money into this effort. And so I think they see the writing on the wall. These are sharp people putting big money into a new operation that will be a low-cost producer. I definitely think Orla is one that people should have on their list. I mean, I generally don't take a real good look at a lot of gold producers, because a lot of times, their best performance is probably behind them. In this case, their best performance is ahead of them. When you can come onto the scene with one of the lowest cost operations in the mining space, that's the kind of miners that will outperform their peers quite dramatically. The 52-week range on this one is 85 cents to $1.83. Closed today at $1.80. Was up nicely on the good news of the money they raised. And I expect a lot of good news from these guys as they start pouring gold and they start producing it at low cost. They'll get a lot more attention, and I like it because it's not too far from where I live.
Okay, Rugby Mining, RUG on the venture, provides a 2019 year-end exploration update. I know you've got some interest in this one from a few players.
Yeah, this one's under the radar screenplay, but it really shouldn't be. One of my big picks in the past was a company called Extore. Extore was a spin out of Exeter. And I started recommending it, I think, when it was at about 70 cents. When the very first day it came trading, I recommended it because I had already been recommending Exeter. And what I really liked about Extoria was they had this project in Argentina. It was an epithermal vein system, and they went on, they found all these very valuable high grade gold and silver veins. And ultimately, I think the stock topped out at about $12, but then the Argentinian government decided to expropriate Repsol from some of their oil projects. They never touched any of the mining deals, but the mining deals got smacked around pretty good. I think ultimately they were taken over for about $7 a share or something like that. So it was a really exceptionally good play for me. And Yale Simpson is the guy that ran the company. He's also involved with rugby. And Rugby put out a big news release. They've got projects in Argentina, so they're again looking for some great stuff down in Argentina. They got stuff in Colombia, and now they're getting ready to roll up their sleeves and get at it again. 93 million shares out on this one. It's a patchy trader again. It's a sort of underloved deal. The high is, this is sort of your classic tax loss selling victim, still available for tax loss selling buying. It was as low as 7 cents, as high as 26 cents. Currently trading at 10 cents on the close on 55,000 shares traded. You never underestimate Yale Simpson. He has had multiple builds and buyouts in his career. And I have a lot of admiration for the technical team that he's involved with. And I think that they've got a chance to do it again. And here you've got an undiscovered gem. Before I think it will be more discovered by more investors. So RUG is definitely one you want to put on your shopping list.
More good news here from White Gold here at the JP Ross property. I know one that's on your list was Sean Ryan. Run through this one.
Again, man, these guys are starting to hit it out of the park, and we've been on the leading edge of them doing that. Like, I think their first big news release, we covered them on the report, and I'm very impressed. This is a Sean Ryan deal, and Sean has done this before. This isn't his first dance, and the last one was. I can't remember the name of it, but they it was up in the up in the Yukon. They found a big deposit. It was bought. It was sold, and I think he's trying to do it again. Today's results: 11 meters of 4.31 grams. In the last news release, they had 6 meters of 72 grams. These are two different projects with two different focuses, but now he's got two kicks at the can up there, and they've got more projects up there. He's spent his career up there, and he's very thorough about the way he does his he's actually got a proprietary method of soil sampling and prospecting, and I think that they've got a great shot for investors at having another buyout kind of scenario for them on the 52-week range. The low is 73 cents, the high is $1.69. It closed at $1.06, so it's not at the top end of the range. It's actually closer to the bottom end of that 52-week range. And as they get more active and keep putting out news results and then get in there to start next year's season, I think if you can get this one anywhere near it from little over $1 down to 73 cents, I think you'll be doing yourself very well.
And as we always do, helping investors get ahead of it here. Is Santa going to drop some presents off in the early year here? Gold looks like it's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a hybrid when I look at the markets, and I look at things from a fundamental sense and a technical sense. Most analysts are one or the other. But when the fundamentals are reflected in the technicals and they're confirming something that I think is going to happen, I've had the success, been fortunate to pick those trends right. And what I see happening here is I see a preponderance of evidence that we should be heading towards a stronger market come January, February for the juniors and for the gold space. One of those things I look for is the ending of tax loss selling. Do we get those early signals that give me a sense that we're going to have a good Santa Claus rally for the junior sector? If we get a good Santa Claus rally between here and the end of the year, that is a precursor to a early January run. And when you get a good early January, the first week in January, if that's a good run, it's a good indicator of what happens in the rest of January. And what happens in January often happens throughout the rest of the year. This is called the January effect. So tax loss selling leads to Santa Claus rally, which leads to strong January. So these are technical indicators that are very important to me because they're very accurate over time. But if the fundamentals didn't also add up, then I would be a little concerned. But in the case of the fundamentals, when you look at the price of gold, we've talked about this before. You've got no QE. They'll be back up to the level they were when they started the quantitative tightening, when they started to lighten up the Fed's balance sheet. They'll be back up there probably within the first half of next year. And at the end of the year, it's always a very tight tax situation. So the repo market could have a real stumble at the end of the year that will make them increase that balance sheet even faster. I know the Fed doesn't want to call it QE, but it's in fact it is QE. And then you've also got the Fed having lowered interest rates for in the last few meetings. So that's the second part of quantitative easing, if you will. Then you've got the debt going through the roof. So they're painted into a corner where they can't really raise interest rates. You've got negative yielding debt all over the world. Probably close to 10% of the world's debt now is negative yielding. In a yield-starved world, investors are going to look for yield. And one of the only places they're going to be able to find that is in gold. Because it's performing. I just had a chat with Rob McEwen yesterday, and he says that the central bankers, they're loading up, and investors all over the world are hunting for places to put their money, and a natural place to park your money is in gold. So we've got the trends are friendly. We've got the fundamentals that are friendly, and I think that's going to take the price of gold higher, and the juniors, especially the good quality ones that we follow in the reports, much higher. And I'm quite excited about that scenario.
As we wrap up here, Al, speaking of making money here, a new sponsor, Amex Exploration, I know a company that you like a lot. I wrote a nice report on them and did a nice drill down with the VPX Kelly Malcolm. Why don't you run through the Amex value proposition for investors here that are looking for these opportunities that we talk about?
Sure, yeah. And first of all, I'd invite investors to look up that Hidden Treasure show on the website and also get their hands on the StockPulse research report that I wrote. I put some good maps in there and explained what was on those maps so investors can understand. One of the things that I always look for in this business, Rob, is I'm always looking for young geos that I think are going to have great careers ahead of them. Andre Goumand was one of those kind of guys, and ultimately he had two discoveries, drilled them out, sold them, made his shareholders a lot of money. Kelly Malcolm is one of those guys that I am really impressed with. And you can always tell the ones to be impressed with when you look at their news releases and their presentations and their corporate website. It presents a clear picture. And if they can present a clear picture, it means that they know what they're doing. Not all geologists can do that. In fact, sometimes they put you to sleep and instead of getting you excited. And Kelly is definitely one of those guys. And the project they have is very impressive. They're finding high grade gold and lots of it in an area where I think that they can find more of these high grade veins. The project has road and power and even cellular phone service to the project. So it's got great infrastructure. It's in Quebec, which is the best mining jurisdiction in the world. And even after they've doubled and more since I first started following them about a year ago when they were trading at around 50 cents, they still have a reasonable market valuation of slightly north of $50 million. That they don't have a lot of stock out. I think they're fully diluted. It's about 55 million. Again, look at the report. I got the accurate numbers in there. But yeah, I think that this is one that investors want to have high on their buy list, and I'm really proud that we've been able to bring them on to StockPulse as a sponsor of the website, and I think they're a great one for investors to look at.
That's it for this week's show. Special thanks to Allan Barry Laboucan for breaking it down. If you're a fan of the information, please subscribe to the channel and share the broadcast. Be back next week to break more of these mining equities down. Happy holidays.